under the brush and trees and nap in the pool areas, and because they blend in so well with the environment, sometimes they can be difficult to see. Now you can take the Kilimanjaro Trail, and that's a walk path that'll bring you back to the platforms just behind us, and that'll allow you to spend more time with these big cats. Since we caught a glimpse of them, I'm going to go ahead and head on and observe the animals that are only visible via the monorail. Again to the right, this is East Africa. If you look at the center of where the valley sort of meets with that tree on the right-hand side, you'll see one of our southern white rhinos. These tan animals you see right along the rocks by the fence, these are Uganda cob, a type of antelope. The most prominent antelope you'll find in Africa. And on the left, you'll have to look up on a hillside, go off from the corner of the left side of the train, up on the red hills, you'll see some zebra. Those are grevy zebra. Grevy zebra are the most aggressive of the zebra species, also the largest. They've got very thin black and white striped patterns with very large Mickey Mouse ears. They can actually rotate those ears 180 degrees independently of each other. It's a great adaptation for a predator species, just that bluish gray color. The next enclosure, the animals on the Indian rhinos have a prehensile or hooked lip. That allows them to use this lip like we use our hands and fingers to grasp things. Another Indian rhino with a little young one. He was born in November. Most rhino species will nurse for about 2 years, gaining an average of 100 pounds a month. They will be full grown at about 2 or 3 years old. Still on the right hand side, if you look at the very top of the hill, the green hill with the very orange colored animals, those are Badasinga, a type of deer. Very gregarious species, and that you usually find them in large groups like that. With some more of the Indian gaur at the top of the hill just alongside the Badasinga. The spotted deer, the male with the very large antlers they're sort of alongside the hill with the Badasinga. Now everybody, I think they're afraid of that tractor. Everybody seems to be running away from it. The spotted deer, those are Indian axis deer. Indian axis deer are a true spotted deer in that they will keep their spots their entire lives. You're now leaving the Asian plains and entering back into East Africa. But if you look over your right shoulder along the fence line, you'll see some sandbar. Those are Malayan sandbar, a type of swamp deer. And just below them are the Altai wapiti, still on the bank of the waterhole, the large antlers. Another great shot of one of our southern white rhinos walking away from us on the dirt road that sort of travels alongside the train at the center of the East African enclosure. The southern white rhino is another great success story for the Wild Animal Park. You see, we've had 84 baby southern white rhinos born here at the park. We are happy to say that the southern white rhino is the only rhino species that has been pulled off of the endangered species list. We'd like to think we had a little bit to do with that. If you look along the hillside to your right, you'll see a black animal with a white patch on his neck. That's a male Nile lechwe. Some of the lighter brown animals that are grazing up above him on the hill, those are the females. An example of sexual dimorphism in which one of the sexes looks very different than the other. The brown shaggy animals that are grazing at the top of the hill, those are Tafasa waterbuck. Not a true aquatic species in that they will leave the water for many miles in search of food. And about 5 more of our southern white rhinos grazing on the hillside. Notice that the southern white rhinos have 2 horns. Unlike the Indian rhino we just saw with 1 horn, they've got a wide 16 to 17 inch lip which allows them to graze along the grassland. This very grayish black colored bird perched on the boulder alongside the fence on the right side, that's an African white-backed vulture. If you look to your left, now that large herd of cattle that are walking along the water's edge opposite us, you'll see some tan animals and some black animals with the white rumps and the white socks. Those are Javan Bangtang, a cattle from the island of Java. The females are the tan, light brown color, and the males are the black color, another example of sexual dimorphism. And the animals that are on the bank taking a dirt bath, the shaggy brown animals, those are European visits. Ancestors to our North American bison. Now the solid black animals with the white horns, there's a couple among the group of decent and a couple that are in the water hole. You see some heads with white horns sticking out. Those are domestic water buffalo. It's from these domestic water buffalo that mozzarella cheese first came from. Keepers tell us if you get close enough, their breath actually smells a little like mozzarella cheese. As we cross the suspension bridge, it's going to be to your lower right. So you have to look pretty quickly to spot these animals because they blend in so well with the environment. This waterfall is actually a recycling project for the Wild Animal Park to recycle the water we use, and it feeds back down into the enclosures for the animals. Look below the trees as we enter the enclosure. They're amongst the rocks right underneath the branches. Very gray in color, blend in well with the environment. These are the Chinese goral. It is thought that these goral are actually the link between the goat and the antelope. Some like to call them goatalope. Their coloration pattern is a great example of cryptic coloration. That's when the animals look so much like their environment, they blend in so well, to make it difficult for predators to pick them out. We'll see another great example of cryptic coloration as we head down the tour a bit. Harassing this little giraffe here. It's a good example of what he does to all the animals in the enclosure, not just the giraffes. I need to keep the first 5 rows a little quiet, please. The 2 the rhinos that are grazing just below that cottonseed tree, the large one in the center. Those are, again, the 2 female northern white rhinos. These brown, shaggy animals that are just alongside us on the right side with the white rings around their rump, those are ellipsid waterbuck. And if you look look over by the several palm trees right by the pond. Those are more of the sable antelope. Another good shot of our Hartman's mountain zebra, the feeding trough right by the right-hand side. Notice that their striping pattern is quite a bit thicker than the Grevy zebra we saw earlier today. They are also aggressive, but not as aggressive as the Grevies, which is why they can stay in this enclosure. Now, the Hartman's mountain zebra, they have a very interesting mating ritual. See, the male will bite the female in the rump when he wants her attention, and then she turns around and kicks him in the head. It seems to work really well for them, so we let them be. The sable antelope underneath the palm trees, they're sitting in what we call an alert circle. Notice everybody's sort of facing a different direction. That's to monitor, to make sure that there's no predator in the area. They keep the young in the center. Even though there has never been predator in this enclosure, hasn't been for 26 years, they continue to do it. It's an instinctual behavior. If you take a look to your left, you'll see some of our Przewalski's horses, one of the last wild horse species. Notice these animals are much shorter, stockier than our domesticated horse, with a much shorter mane. These animals are also very aggressive, which is why they're in their own enclosure.
Here. It's on. Okay. Don't fall. Don't run. Don't run. Don't run. Don't run. Don't run.
This is the second floor. What we were at, it was the second floor. This is our room. That's a closet. Bedroom, and a toilet. Then a bedroom, and a toilet, and it was a bath with a shower. You can go outside, and this is where you can relax. Now we're going to go on the third floor and tell you all about it. This is the bath, the tub, the bath, the toilet, this is the bathroom, and that's the closet. And that's the fire, that's the couch, that's the table, and this is our extra room. Okay, we're going back up to the first floor. Okay. I told you all about the second floor, yeah. And I got to tell you about the first floor. That's a big TV. Not the table, not the table. There's the couch. That's a little couch. You can sit outside. That's the door you come in. That's the mirror. And this is